Carl Donar had spent 11 years hauling cargo through disputed space, and in that time he distilled survival down to 3 rules worth remembering. First, never drink anything blue on Tarvo Station. Second, always check your oxygen seals twice. Third, if something looks like trouble, it usually is. The arm clawing its way up from the mud definitely qualified. Carl eased back on the guidance bars of his hover bike, the twin mechanical pack beasts trailing behind him, officially Mk7 autonomous cargo units, unofficially Bert and Ernie, came to a clanking halt, hydraulic joints whining as they settled into standby. Their sensor arrays swept the horizon with tireless patience. Kasari 4 stretched out around him like a cautionary tale. 40 years ago, it had been sold as the next great agricultural frontier. Then the aquifers collapsed, leaving 3 million settlers wondering why they'd traded comfortable Martian apartments for dust, heat, and front row seats to the death of their dreams. Most had left. The stubborn ones stayed, clinging to mining camps and relay outposts scattered across the barrens. Carl was just passing through. His hold was full of water purification filters bound for Gamma-7, and he had absolutely no interest in whatever drama was unfolding in the dried riverbed ahead. The arm rose higher. Scaled. Not synthetic. Not cosmetic. Real biological scales catching the amber light of Kasari's sun and reflecting it in emerald and gold. Long fingers tipped with talons grasped weakly at the air, trembling with exhaustion. "Nope," Carl said out loud. He believed strongly in minding his own business. The policy was simple. Don't. He began to turn the bike around. The arm dropped back into the mud with a wet slap, and a sound followed, high, broken, terrified. A word, or something trying to be one. Carl stopped. He was 42 years old. He'd spent 8 years in the Colonial Defense Forces before deciding that getting shot for a pension wasn't a great retirement plan. He carried scars he didn't like to think about, an ex-wife on Titan who never wanted to see him again, and a talent for staying uninvolved. The sound came again. Definitely a word this time. Definitely afraid. "I'm going to regret this," he muttered, swinging off the hover bike. His boots sank into cracked clay as he approached the riverbed, one hand resting on the grip of his sidearm. The Kovac Hamel Model 7 wasn't the most powerful pistol in the reach, but it had never jammed. In Carl's experience, reliability mattered more than raw power. Recent rains, rare as mercy on this planet, had left shallow pools of muddy water in the lowest parts of the riverbed. In one of them lay 3 shapes, humanoid, not human. Drainids. They were nearly submerged, bodies caked in mud so thoroughly they blended into the earth itself. Only their faces broke the surface. Tall, scaled, elegant in a way that was also unsettling, like dragons sculpted by someone with excellent taste and no interest in comfort. Female, based on ridge patterns, and in bad shape. The mud was intentional, survival camouflage. Beneath it, they were naked, shivering, exhausted. The one closest to him lifted her head. Copper-colored eyes with vertical pupils locked onto his face, filled with fear and fragile hope. "Police," she said, her standard accented but clear. "Help us." Carl scanned the horizon, then the sky, then his bike and cargo. Then he noticed what he should have seen immediately. Burn marks around their wrists. Restraint burns. "Mag cuffs. Who's looking for you?" he asked. "Harvesters," the woman said. "They took us from our transport 3 days ago. We escaped when they stopped to." She didn't finish. She didn't need to. Carl knew what harvesters did when they stopped. "How many?" 7. "They have a crawler 2 kilometers back. They are searching." The mud, the riverbed. It made sense. Drained body heat ran low, and the mud masked what little thermal signature remained. "And you've been waiting for them to leave," Carl said. "They did not." Her eyes stayed on his face. "We heard your vehicle, I hoped. 7 harvesters." Carl wasn't that good. And even if he were, firefights with flesh traders weren't on his schedule. But 8 years of service had taught him exactly what happened to people who fell into harvester hands. "Can you walk?" he asked. "Walk and run," another Draenid said, pushing herself up. Broader, copper rust scales, voice rougher. If we must. You won't, Carl said. But you will move. Now, he offered his hand. I'm Carl. She took it. Cold skin, weak grip, immense determination. Tessel, she said. This is Morgan. And Isolta. 3 naked, exhausted Draenid women. Carl had no reason to help them. Ernie, he said over his shoulder, open the emergency compartments. Thermal blankets. Water rations? Wrap up, he said. We're going to my ship. You expect us to trust you? Morgan asked sharply. You don't, Carl replied. But you know what happens if they find you? Silence. Then Tessel stepped forward and took the blanket. What choose to trust you, she said. Freely. Carl nodded once. Let's move. What followed was an exercise in physics abuse and creative desperation. This will not work, Morgan observed, eyeing the hover bike. It'll work. The weight distribution. I said it'll work. They made it work. Barely. Carl pushed the bike hard as scout contacts appeared on his scanner. 3 fast movers. Armed. They're gaining? Morgan said calmly. He made the call. Bert. Ernie. Defensive Protocol 7. The pack beasts peeled away without hesitation. They will be destroyed, Tessel said. They'll buy time, Carl replied. They're insured. They weren't. Weapons fire cracked behind them. 7 years of maintenance. Gone. Carl didn't look back. The Marguerite came into view like salvation with rusted edges. They hit the ramp at full speed. Shields flared. Engines roared. The ship clawed its way into the sky, shrugging off harvester fire as orbit swallowed them whole. Only then did Carl breathe. 4 days later, Threshold Station waited. Diplomats. Safety. An ending. Tessel pressed a data chip into his hand. Enough to fix his ship. Replace what was lost. Enough to go home. When you see your daughter, she said softly, tell her father is a good man. Carl couldn't speak, but he nodded. 3 weeks later, Carl sat in a cafe on Titan, rain streaking the windows. A girl stood in front of him, 12 years old. Dark hair, stubborn jaw. She said. Carl replied. I want to tell you a story, he said. About 3 women I met in a riverbed. She hesitated. Then she sat. Carl Donor had spent 11 years running, and finally, he had stopped.